and a very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha Television with me, Frank Pereira. Well, there are around 3 crore cases pending in the lower courts, several lakh in the high courts and thousands in the Supreme Court, highlighting the need for judicial reforms. The term legal reform has caught the imagination of policymakers, the judiciary and the general public, taking everyone by storm. Suddenly, everybody is clamoring to usher in new laws and weed out redundant ones. The government and the Law Commission have also jumped onto the bandwagon by implementing a slew of new measures to reform laws. However, a crucial aspect of the entire process remains ignored: the quality of Indian lawmaking and also law amending, which functions as the fulcrum of any kind of legal reform. On this edition of The Big Picture, we'll take a look at the judicial reforms over the last 1 year, the problems faced by the judiciary and the way forward. Joining me on the program today are R.S. Sodhi, retired Justice of the Delhi High Court; K.T.S. Tulsi, Senior Supreme Court Advocate and Rajya Sabha MP; Sanjay Hegde, Senior Supreme Court Advocate; Satya Prakash, Legal Editor of the Hindustan Times. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me on the program today. Justice Sodhi, I'd like to start with you, of course. As the introduction itself, I mentioned that there are over 3 crore pending cases in the lower judiciary, lakhs of cases in the High Court and several thousand in the Supreme Court as well. These figures by themselves highlight the need for judicial reform. But over the last 1 year, have we seen adequate judicial reforms?
Yes, talking about judicial reforms, of course, everything needs a reform once it starts stagnating. But the vital question is, has the existing system been taken or used effectively enough? If there is the lack of use of initial system, you cannot keep on reforming a thing without implementing the existing system to its maximum and taking out the maximum from it. And then, if there is a need to do anything further, certainly do it.
Indeed. Mr. Tulsi, is there adequate government participation in ensuring urgently needed judicial reforms? Or do you also believe, like Justice Sodhi has said, that, extend the current possibilities to its fullest and only then can we think about further judicial reforms?
I think Mr. Justice Sodhi is perhaps referring to there are 170 more than 170 posts of the High Court judges vacant.
Yes.
So that's what he means, but I think that there are some radical reforms that are required, and this is to modernize. I am talking in the context of the criminal justice. 60% of cases in the court are those of criminal nature. We need to modernize our police station. We need to expand technology, provide technology for recording of statements. The recoveries should be made in the CCTV, in front of the CCTV, which can be carried, or even now all the police people have smartphones. They can video record statements of witnesses. There needs to be, if the statements are video recorded, then it will have much greater credibility. We need tools and technology of the modern age for the courts, and not necessarily make them function on the basis of procedure which is of the bullock cart technology. We need to have measurements, microscopy, photography, invisible rays, chromatography, electrolysis, spectrography, laser techniques, X-ray diffraction analysis. So when the forensic team approaches the crime scene, it should be fully equipped, and they will be able to place the charge sheet in a matter of just 24 hours or maybe 48 hours. At the moment, we give them 90 days. So why so much delay? We give them technology and ask them. They will be able to get the results instantly, instead of having to refer to the central laboratories, which are so overloaded. You see, Sister Abhaya's case in 1995 was resolved on the basis of polygraphy and brain mapping, brain fingerprinting, narco analysis. Hemraj, that is Rajesh Talwar versus CBI, was worked out on the basis of DNA profiles. And the existence, the presence of Hemraj in Arushi's room was established on the basis of fingerprints and the fingerprints which were found on the glasses, as well as narco-analysis. So we need to abandon the conventional approach. We need scientific tools, waterproof aprons, rubber gloves for the team that visits, jumpsuits, hair covers, face shield, thermometers, auto dissection set, hand saw. They should be fully equipped. We have made our police. Our police consists of school level only matriculates. We need to have we need to have people with scientific background in the police for the purpose of investigation with much higher degrees.
Sure.
And then only we will be able to speed up justice and file charge sheets, for instance, by CD instead of the sacks of paper which are handed over to the accused. We
Fair
need
enough.
a paradigm shift in the criminal court and in the police stations.
In Sanjay Hegde, a paradigm shift is what Mr. Tulsi is talking about. Are you also of the same opinion that the kind of tools that we have should be used first, and also better infrastructure and improvement of the legal infrastructure on the whole is the need of the hour?
Well, there's no doubt that you need to improve your legal infrastructure. Your courts are crowded, overworked, and ultimately it is what you get out there are dates and not outcomes. So what really needs to be done is to modernize everything as Mr. Tulsi has said. But quite apart from that, what we also need to bring in is a societal and a cultural change of obeying the law, respecting the law, and working things out according to law. Here, when you know that any case to resolve in courts is going to take years, there naturally is a tendency for people to take advantage and say, okay, let's see what happens in court. And then it goes on and on. If as a country you start getting to obey the law, honoring your contracts, and then going to court only when necessary, and when you go to court, if you happen to lose in court, I believe that you should be damned with the entire costs of the other man's litigation. Here, no. Here, everybody can resort to court, and courts, will, obviously being overcrowded, will take their own time. We have to actually focus on desirable outcomes. Secondly, I do believe that our appellate processes go on and on, primarily because there is a tendency for appellate courts to interfere. The High Court looks into what the District Court does, the Supreme Court looks into what the High Court does. And then, the bar is rather low for an appeal to be considered. We should have a system of justice where at the first instance, most people get it right. And appeals in the appellate court should be largely confined to questions of law.
How do we ensure that happens?
No, the first thing is a system of costs. Second thing is that time in court should be rationed. Should be rationed extremely. We go on, we are a great argumentative country, and we go on and on. Unless things are put down in writing, focused in writing, and you give a judge a certain workload per day, 10 cases, that's it. But they have to be fully solved. It's not that you take a case, do a little stage, and then say we'll have the next stage 6 months or 3 months hence.
Fair enough. Satya Prakash, the fact of the matter remains that there is an extreme shortage of judges right from our lowest courts to the Supreme Court of India. So when there are no judges, how can you dispose of cases? And the situation between the executive and the judiciary over the last couple of years has not helped matters at all, has it?
Well, exactly. It was perhaps for this reason that the CJI, he almost broke down at a function in April last in the capital. But it is not just this manpower. Apart from judicial manpower, you have support staff, you have lack of infrastructure, you have use of technology which is not being put to use in judiciary. Also, some sort of management skills have to be put into the system, because the judges, they themselves managing the entire affair, it's not proving to be sufficient. And lots of times the various chief justices, they have talked about taking the help of trained management people, but it has not happened. But as you pointed out, that without having adequate number of judges, it's very difficult to solve. Indian judges per day, the kind of Justice Sodhi is here, if you see the board, their list of cases they are handling on a daily basis in the High Court or in Supreme Court or even in trial courts, it's huge. It's huge, and it's not humanly possible for judges to tackle those number of cases on a daily basis. By the time, at the end of the day, most of the times, particularly in trial courts, judges, they don't know what they have dictated. They are not in a position to read the files, read the order sheet. They just append their signature on the files. And many a time you will find that there are some mistakes which have gone uncorrected. But primarily, the lack of you don't have an adequate number of judges. So judges should be appointed, adequate numbers. But here the judiciary and the executive, they are fighting with each other. The problem is not just this fight, because most of the times we confuse that government is not trying to, not giving what the judiciary is asking for. They are not fighting over who should be appointed judges. They are fighting over who should be appointing judges. So the power to appoint judges, that is more important than who should be appointed judges. That is the parameter for appointing judges, the procedure for appointing judges. And that is why for the last 1 year, judiciary and the executive, they have not been in a position to sort out their differences over memorandum of procedure for appointing High Court and Supreme Court judges. And it is still pending, and that is the main reason why almost 40%, or now I think it has reached 45%, 45% of posts in various high courts are lying vacant. Indeed. While the pendency is sharply rising. That is one. But then that's not the end of it. In trial courts, you have around 5,000 vacancies, and you cannot blame the government. It is for the high courts to conduct the exam, to initiate everything, and it is at their initiative that everything is done. But high courts, they are not taking initiative. So almost 5,000 posts, and that is almost 1/4 of the posts in various trial courts, they are lying vacant. And these are much more serious cases. Why? Because these are the places where a common man goes, the trial courts. And these are the places, if you don't handle it properly, the bulk of the cases, 2.5 crore or something, bulk of the cases, they are pending in trial courts. These are the things which the policymakers, the government and the judiciary, everybody should sit together, and they should be taking note of it rather than blaming each other for the problem.
Justice Sodhi, as Satya Prakash is suggesting, should the judiciary, especially, justices of the High Courts and the Supreme Court, play a more proactive role in appointment to some of the judges of the trial courts, as he has suggested?
Oh, he's absolutely right. That as far as the trial courts are concerned, it is the duty of the High Court to ensure that there are no vacancies at all. Because you see, this is the only place in the judiciary, we always know the date of our retirement. And we also know the vacancies that are going to occur. Therefore, there is no reason why these vacancies should not be worked out prior to the retirement and a replacement made immediately. That's one thing, and that is why I said, unless you use the existing system effectively and keep talking about, like Mr. Tulsi says, bring in all the equipment all around you. Have all the equipment, certainly have it, and that's a good thing, no doubt. Nobody criticizes that. But what about the manpower, the person who's going to man the gun? At least surely he must be there. The gun itself won't do it.
Yes.
So therefore, the judiciary today is terribly understaffed. I think it is one of the motherly treatment it is getting.
Would you say that remains the fundamental reason?
Well, largely yes, unless it is fully staffed, you cannot say that there are areas because of bad docket movement or for lack of technology equipment. It's difficult to point out all that unless the system is working on full steam. It is not today working on full steam, and therefore we are not able to dispose of or nor give to the people the justice they require in time, and consequently, I think it is going to be a killing our own self, really.
In another point that Satyaprakash raised was the fact that judges don't really have the time because they are overworked to go through the merits really of an order. Would you agree with that assessment? Do you think, or do you believe that judges at the end of the day pass an order based on their intuition and their common sense because they don't really have the time to go through the thousands of documents in front of them?
No. As far as the case is concerned, the individual case will be looked in with all the documents. The question, I think, what he's trying to say is that, look, if I have, say, 100 cases before me, I have to dispose of these 100 cases within the specific time in the day. 90 of them are going to be adjourned. And obviously, I do not even know what is in those 90 cases. They may be far more important than the ones I'm already dealing with. But then I have no time. So therefore, what do? I compromise somewhere or the other, adjourn them, put them off. And the case which I take on, that of course will have to be decided to its logical end. But the time that is required for that one case to be decided may be still inadequate. And maybe more learning could have gone into it.
Indeed.
And things would have been better answered.
Sure. Mr. Tulsi, in the present framework and with what we have to work around with at the moment and the current system itself, how do we ensure that, things are planned or are coordinated in a better manner?
You see, I believe that at least the subordinate judiciary, the appointment, the postings, etc., maybe with the High Court or in consultation with the High Court. But they should all be recruited through an All India Service exam. And there should be an Indian Judicial Service on the basis of which there should be an appointment. The judges themselves of the High Court, which take into account the job of assessing relative merit of people to be appointed, I don't think is seriously flawed. And it takes so much time that you have huge amount of vacancies for which only the High Courts themselves are to be blamed. And I think that there should be, like the All India Civil Service exam, there should be a legal service exam, and the UPSC should recruit them, and there should be adequate number of persons available in the pool all the time, that moment somebody retires, another person takes over. So, so far as appointments to the High Courts and the Supreme Courts are concerned, that of course will be decided according to whatever shape the validity of this statute takes in the future.
Indeed. Sanjay Hegde, as far as specialized courts are concerned, there are several specialized courts that were set up to try and look into special cases and to look at them from time to time. But even these specialized cases, really, the specialized courts, I beg your pardon, are under tremendous pressure to deal with some of these cases because the number of cases are just piling up on a daily basis. Now, are these specialized courts in a position to do the kind of work that they are supposed to do?
What is a special court? It is only a court with a notification of special. Nothing else really changes because it's almost the same procedure. Justice Sodhi will bear me out. So, supposing it's a dowry court, the court goes on listening to dowry matters. Now, I come back to my earlier point that ultimately, what do we want from the court process? We want speedy outcomes. Now, there is no stake in speedy outcomes on the part of the bar, definitely, and to a certain extent on the bench also, because they also go by how many units of work based on some numerical formula are calculated. What we actually need to do is probably first clear out the old mess, in as much as of all these areas, many of those cases are dead. The parties are dead. People have served out their sentences. Just please, somebody has to open those decaying papers, check out whether even the lawyers are interested. You must probably have a system where every few months the lawyers on both sides must say that that matter is still alive and that there are people who have a stake in it. If you do that, then you can concentrate on matters which require urgent attention. Justice Sodhi had a point when he said that he would have 90 or 100 matters, and then of which probably 10 could be done in the day, and you never knew what the time was. Now, but the point also is that those 100 matters meant at least 200 lawyers waiting. If there was some thought given to an algorithm or something that said that these matters will be taken up today, this one ready, no adjournments, and it goes on from for 10 minutes each, 20 minutes each, or half an hour each, then people could adjust their lives accordingly.
Indeed.
One last point
Yes.
is that probably we men of law are too interested in seeing the other side. We get caught in abstractions. Maybe it is time for us to disclaim any virtues in management. Judges called upon to judge, lawyers called upon to argue, but to manage the process, you need court administrators.
Indeed, that's a very valid point that you're making. Yes, Satya Prakash, you wanted to make another point?
Yeah, apart from what Mr. Sanjay Hegde said, there are a couple of ideas that have come up, or some of them have been implemented during 2016. One was about the doing away with archaic and old laws. That's several hundred such laws have been done away with, repealed. So that is one that will lead to ultimately in decline of number of cases that are being filed, because those statutes would no more be on the law books. The second is there was one idea that the Supreme Court is toying with. There was a petition and the Supreme Court has asked the government to respond to it, whether we can have a court of appeal between high courts and the Supreme Court. That system is there in Canada, that's there in South Africa and a couple of other countries, where the normal cases will end up in the court of appeal. Any appeal from a high court will go to the court of appeal and it can decide, and you can have 4 regional benches of that court of appeal in 4 corners of this country. But then only the constitutional matters will go to the Supreme Court, because one of the problems we are facing is there are lots of constitutional matters which have been referred to Constitution bench, but the benches have not been constituted. Why? Because we don't have too many judges in the Supreme Court to take up all those cases. So important constitutional matters are taking a back seat, because if you decide one constitutional matter and that constitutional issue is decided, that can lead to several hundred, or in some cases 1,000 cases being disposed of in one go. That is not happening. If we can do so, and this is only at the stage of discussion, the government has initially opposed it. I don't know how the case will unfold further, because Supreme Court has asked the government to respond. The government has opposed, but there are people who say that this should be done. In the past, the Law Commission of India has recommended that it should be done. There should be a discussion on this. This can lead to a better system, to my understanding. And apart from that, management should be a better management. Use of technology. We have all seen how typewriters were being used in courts, but now most of the courts, particularly in cities, they have been completely computerized, interlinked. E-court system is being tried on a trial basis. There are many courts. In at least one court in the Supreme Court was supposed to be fully e-court. It is not functioning. In High Court, there are supposed to be courts which are completely e-courts, e-filing. You don't file documents. You file everything in electronic form. That's not happening. If all these things are done, primarily, I must emphasize, you need manpower to deal with cases. Even e-courts would need a judge to handle cases.
Indeed.
So we need judges, more and more judges, because the population, there was Law Commission of India report way back in 1987, 120th report, not implemented. Thereafter, there have been Supreme Court orders to the government that the numbers should be increased. Nothing has happened. Unfortunately, the government and the judiciary are fighting over who should be appointing judges, not how many judges should be appointed and how fast it can be done. That is not at all the consideration right now.
Lack of manpower remains to be the fundamental issue as of now. But I've got 2 minutes left on the program, so I'd like to get closing comments from all my guests. Mr. Tulsi, do you believe that the quality of Indian lawmaking on the whole needs to improve as well? Because we've seen, where these laws are really made. We've seen the kind of debates that deteriorate over the years, and lawmakers are more interested in really disrupting the houses rather than actually formulating the law within Parliament.
You see, it's not a question of law. There is nothing wrong with the law. And our judges are outstanding. They are brilliant and they apply themselves to each of the cases. The whole problem is only with the management. Management of the courts has got to be more scientific. Judges have no time for management, and then ultimately the registrars and all who may not be experts in management. We need expert management of the court system everywhere. And I would say that so far as at least I am not enamored of the idea of Court of Appeal. We'll only add one more layer to and delay it further. And I believe that for forms of government, it is said in the context of government, but I would, if I can modify that, for forms of courts, let fools contest. Whatever administered best is best. We need better judges, we need better management systems, and we need to decide these cases quickly.
Sure, fair enough. Sanjay Hegde, your final quick closing comments.
Well, the point is that we not only have to decide it quickly, but we have to see that it doesn't result in more litigation.
Sure.
We are in a hurry to pass laws without really auditing as to how much litigation will ensue out of it. One amendment like 498A has, or the check bouncing matters, they have added hugely to the burden of courts.
Fair enough. Satya Prakash, your final closing comments.
Well, in any case,
the way forward.
We need to act fast, because there is a report of the Supreme Court Court Management System which says in the next 3 decades, the number of pendency is going to increase manyfold, requiring at least 75,000 judges. Right now, we have close to roughly 20,000 or something. That's sanctioned strength. So we need to solve all these issues, particularly the manpower issue, very fast.
Sure.
Otherwise, in the next 1 decade, it's going to be
Those 3
completely
crores will
unmanageable.
become 6 crores then.
Yes.
And Justice Sodhi, your final closing comments on the program. Please close the show for us.
You know, you correctly said it is the areas that we are really worried about. Today we have reached a critical point where it is very likelihood that the system itself may collapse. I suggest, if you cannot get new ones to come in, let the old workhorse, call the old workhorse back and let them do their duties again, once again. These old ones, old judges or retired judges, although they may have lost a little bit of their shine, they still have capacity to render their work. Until you get the new ones, use your old horse.
Indeed. All right. On that note, we'll have to call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you so much, R.S. Sodhi, KTS Tulsi, Sanjay Hegde and Satya Prakash for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's all the time we have. Thank you so much for watching.